Oh yeah, this has to be it. Nice! I'm looking forward to this one. Forest Hideout is a modern recreation of the 6054 Forest Men's Hideout from 1988. Originally, that model had 200 pieces, and this one only features 258 pieces. So not a lot more in terms of boosting part number, but a lot more in terms of texture and floral detail. I don't have the original model in order to compare it side by side for this review, but after looking it over from some pictures online, I can tell where the differences lie. Obviously, the structure of the model does change a little bit, but still capturing a similar silhouette to the 1988 Castle Classic. It still features two forest figures, which we'll look at in just a moment. It does have some texture work for the bark and all around on the tree itself using various elements. It does have a couple of panel-like pieces on different edges, but instead of them being sharp, it's a lot more rounded. You'll see some of these along this side particularly, but it does give a better feel for it being a tree model, and especially with all the rest of the branches along here, it does make it feel more like a structure built into a tree. Now, back in the day, they didn't use brown as much for tree builds, for a lot of things, but they did use black to make it like a darker bark sort of feeling. So sometimes forest men, dark forest go hand in hand, with the dark, woodwork. So it's really nice that they still brought that in here with this version of the model, having it still in that black and blue and light bluish gray color scheme. Obviously can't do the original light gray. Another difference that I noted while building this model is that the Elk Shields that are positioned up here, obviously you can take those down and accessorize the figures. These have a particular difference to them. See, back in the day, the original Forest Men and Dark Forest had two variations of shields. One of them had a small black outline right around the edges of the green before it meets the brown. This one adapts from the later version of it with that small outline included, but still having the same sort of elk artwork, which is very nice. I believe some of that we also saw a little bit in Nexo Knights. They did reference the Forest Men in there with one or two different figures and one of the small bot figures as well, representing Robin Hood. What's cool about this model, just like in the original, it has a hinge system throughout the middle of it, so you can have this thing splayed out for the widest appeal, or you can close it up for a more complete structure all the way around. So it can actually feel like a full tree on all sides. Now that's a simple detail that I think would be really beneficial to sets in general, just to make them feel more complete instead of a facade, where you still have a little bit of interior work, but you can still position this anywhere you like without being too garish. I do like the small entryway here, although it is a little hard to position figures in there. It is just enough room to angle them with one or two plates and having to keep a foot up to make them look like they're walking in or out of the tree itself. Now, as I open this thing back up, we'll get to see some of the interior detail. There is a little bit more space for posing figures all the way around. You have a ladder that leads up to this small deck where you could either look out or shoot out using the arrows and bows. You also have this target practice, which is really nice, having a newer version of that print and having a nice little building technique to make the third leg of the stand. This treasure is actually inside of a barrel, so that can easily pop out from here. Once again, still having room to fit a figure if you wanted to. And the treasure inside, while not yellow 1x1 round plates, in this case is pearl gold. A couple of them are included, and even one or two extras if you wanted to add a little more coinage to your variety. They do have a couple of accessories throughout here. You can see some of them in the minifigure hands, and one of them is posed up on the tree itself with the spear. That is the hard plastic version, not the flexible one that we saw in lines such as Hero Factory. Well, let's take a closer look at those figures right now. The set includes 2 minifigures representing the forest men. I don't know if they would still be referred to as forest men or forest people, but we're going to put that aside for now. What is nice is that they are very non-specific torsos. You can make male or female minifigures out of it very easily. They are the exact same torso between the 2 of these, and they are double printed. So both of these sides have the same printing from one figure to the next, and it looks very proper, having that little collar look going front and back, having the belt wrap around, a little bit of drapery and scratches, patchwork. It was very nice for both of them. Unfortunately though, these figures are not readily available as of right now in other sets. You can receive them in either this gift with purchase or the large scale castle with the Crusaders as the highlight, and a few of these just kind of tucking away in a separate area underneath the castle. So as far as the representation, as far as trying to get more of the forestmen in this style, it's going to be a little tricky unless they put those pieces up on bricks and pieces, or pick-a-brick, whatever it's called nowadays from Lego, or if there are just numerous copies of them available in the wild on Bricklink or online. As far as the faces, I think it's really nice that they're upgraded faces. They have some nice detail to them. The face for the male figure is actually the same one that's used for Rocket Racer from the Lego City Stunts lot. And the female figure has been used in many different times. It is nice having the ponytail to go with her, but it still would have been nice to include an extra hat piece. Yes, it may not fit on her head, but I think it would have still been useful to have multiple of these figures in the same type of uniform with the hat itself and maybe the plume. You do get 2 of the extra red plumes in here. You do not get any other colors of plumes with the set, unlike the original, which had yellow as one of the plumes for one of those forestmen. But I think it would have just worked a little bit better if you wanted to build up an army of forest people, that you would have multiple of them with the hats proper. But as it is, there it is. They still look okay, and they don't look too out of place. You have the newer style of the broadsword, you have the classic version of the bow and arrow, as well as the quiver, all in reddish brown. And just to add a little bit more to comparison in the mix, here's a couple of castle figures that I whipped up using old and new parts, even some as late as the Series 24 collectible minifigures with the Falconer, just to see how it compares with them. That Crusader's torso is the original version, not the reissue. But yeah, I think it looks pretty okay with some of these other minifigures, especially the more modern ones. Some of the earlier ones, such as this one right here, may stand out a little bit now, but I think it fits very proper with even ones from several years ago, such as the Kingdoms one several years ago, almost a decade ago. Are you kidding me? So yeah, some really nice looks all throughout. Fits with other castle figures very nicely. In my research about the Forestman's Hideout, I noticed that this modern version also lacks some particular pieces that are no longer in production. I mentioned before about the panels now being a lot more rounded as opposed to sharp edges, but there was also this whip piece that is no longer in production as far as I can tell. There are modern versions of the whip that are usually coiled up in the style of Indiana Jones, but this older version that was featured in the Forest, Dark Forest, and other lines, especially in green and brown, is not available in this set. However, if you do have those pieces lying around, you can still add them on a couple points, so you can still get the same vine effect swinging across the air. You also have this extra detail, which was in the original, but now done a little bit more smoothly to lift open the roof in case you needed to throw some accessories in there, or just duck away a couple of Forestman figures. So overall, this was a pretty cool set. It was a nice promotional item, especially in terms of its depth, in terms of its homage to an older Forestman set. I just wish it had a better way of being offered. It was a little bit iffy of getting it in a short period and then shortly after another period of time. I don't know why they can't just do it like they used to and have it continuously for several weeks. But it did get me to panic buy in order to pick one up. It's a Neo Castle line of Black Falcons, Crusaders, Forestmen that we've seen throughout this year and even a few years before is really welcomed. It is a very nice thing to still continue original castle themes from Lego. And I think we got to send this thing off in just the right way. Yes! Oh my God! Let's do it, let's do it again, please. Please give me this one more time. Come.